Meet me on the moon, soon as you can, in the middle of the sky, you and I.
How y'all doing? My name is James Graham from Trenton Divine Poetry. I want to talk about the event we got coming up called Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out. It's on October the 13th, 7 o'clock at the Conservatory Mansion on, East State Street in Trenton, New Jersey. All right? Come on out and enjoy yourself. It's a family event. The event is the most divine poetry slam. We give poets an opportunity to win $500 straight in your pocket. We have tonight, I want to introduce to some and present to others the 2017 Most Divine Poet, Mr. Trey G. How you doing, Mr.?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
All right, bud. I want to talk about tonight some of the things that you got going on, but first we're going to talk about how did you enjoy the evening at the 2017 Most Divine Poetry Slam.
I thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You blessed us.
All right. In regard to that in particular night, I just really enjoyed the night. Like I was saying, before, it was a really intimate setting, just really conducive to being able to express your truth and, feel like we were connecting, the people who were performing the poetry with the audience themselves. Also, it's funny, the food was really good too. So that's always a plus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just a really relaxed, enjoyable environment. Even the performers, the poets themselves, they weren't just there to compete. Which is real funny because you think slam, you think competition, but a lot of the poets, we mingled, we networked, we shared one another's stories, and we were there to learn from each other. So that was always a plus.
Yeah, it was a blessed evening. They had some great poets that were really shining through there and put them to the test. You know what I'm saying? Again, and he's been all over the world, so he could speak on great poetry and knowing what poetry is all about. Now, if you're going to try out for Trenton Divine Poetry, you have to give me a call at area code 609-222-3048, and I'll present all the information to you for trying out. Talk about some of the up-and-coming projects you got on, Brother Trey.
As of right now, poetry is kind of taking a back seat to just my writing in general. But if you're looking to hear more from me in regard to poetry, I do have some materials. I have a book out right now. It's called For the Sake of Gods. It's really just a play on words, like for God's sakes, you know what I mean? In there you'll find different things about, black community, just love. You'll find everything dealing from family to just some everyday thing that didn't kind of fit into a poem. You know what I mean? Just little things, little proverbs that I came up with over the years. That's the book. You can get that on the website. If you just Google Trey G Poet or Trey G Poetry, my Wix website will come up, and right there on the home page, you can click a link that will direct you to where to buy the book. Then there's the CD, my latest CD. It's called Ambush. It speaks to black life in America, from police brutality to our interactions with our women to how we raise our children. And it speaks to even the grand juries and some of the things that we see going on in the courtroom in America in regards to black men. So that's Ambush.
Awesome stuff. So we invite you to come on out. We'll introduce you to Trey G. He's got a lot of good networking tips for the new poets. He's not participating because what we have a strategy of is if you win, you sit out for 2 years and you promote yourself, and we help promote you as the Most Divine Poet. So come on out, all right? Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out Slam 2018 is for you, the winner. I can see you now. Thank you for coming up, brother.
Thanks for having me again, brother.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
Which is unconditioned. Let us put away corrupt rituals that keep us earthbound. We can align with the speed of light and move through water as the speed of sound. Not for pride, money, or competition, just to remind us that we can all reach beyond prejudice and social insanity.
How y'all doing? James Graham again, with another member of the Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out team, Brother Marquise Humphrey, another poet with the mostest. You know what I'm saying? This is him. Y'all know his work. He's been entertaining y'all every time we've had an event. I'm going to just let him introduce himself and some of the work he's doing. Brother Marquise Humphrey, how you been, brother?
I feel fine. Listen, first I want to say thank you to James Graham for even having me in this interview and having me part of this project. The way I got started with it was, I'm normally a behind the scenes guy, but James asked me to say a few words at one of his initial shows. And from that day on, I've been co-hosting the show ever since then. We in our second year now, right?
Third, actually. Yeah.
Going into the third year, and with Tyrone Gaskin, we just been tag teaming it. It's a wonderful experience. This is a birth child of James working and traveling throughout doing poetry, and then he said, you know what, it's time to bring something home to Trenton that's a greater energy than some of the activities that's going on in Trenton right now with some of the violence and some of the social disorder. James said, I got something that's going to bring some divinity back into the town, some power, some energy, some positive stuff. And when a brother comes to you like that, you got to get on that type of energy, because that's what we're here for. So in my introduction, I just want to say thank you for making me be part of this, holding me to the fire, and now I done fell in love with it, so it's an easy thing to do.
Explain to the people, some of the positive projects that you got going on in the city, and some of the things that you have done in your past that you have developed this genre with people. They know your name in the city, so you've developed this genre that people want to have you coming back to do ministry and to do other things that are positive. But you've developed this genre in the city. Just talk about some of the things you're doing in the city.
It's so much, because there's so much to do in the city of Trenton. But for those that don't know, for 6 years I was in charge of the men's ministry for Shiloh Baptist Church, one of the right-hand men for Reverend Armstrong. And then also in that same time period, I managed his Capital Corridor CDC, which Tyrone Gaskin helped out with that in reference to grant writing. And we foster a lot of mentoring programs. So we're working with kids that was coming from broken homes, and we were just helping them to become stable, to find jobs, and just helping them get through school, and some of them have even gone to go to college. Recently, I've been inspired by young athletes. And so traveling the country with my daughter with AAU ball, when I got to Tennessee, I decided, you know what, Trenton needs to experience this. So I came back that year, which is about 3 years ago, and I started the Trenton Ballers for Life Association. The key words in that, Trenton Ballers for Life. What we believe is that if we can expose kids to AAU sports, doesn't just have to be basketball, and then also put some wraparound educational opportunities there, that we can create a pipeline for these kids to navigate right through poverty, right into the collegiate level of academia. And so therefore our second crop of girls, most of them are in college now, or actually starting college in September. We just started with our boys, the 7th and 8th grade boys, and we got a strong crop that we're gonna push through. One of the key things for anybody that's trying to do something positive, academics is number one, but sports is a magnet that pulls. The magnetism of sports is powerful. Anytime you open up shop and say, I got a gym, and you can come in, kids come from all over. They come from everywhere. And so that's one of the things that we wanted to do. We also realized that there's some talent I believe there's $1 billion worth of talent on the streets of Trenton, but there's no platform.
Right.
Okay, so one of the things that we're going to do, and this is the first time I publicly said the name of this, so this interview is powerful. We're going to do S. Records, and that's going to help some of the young artists in Trenton who's been working on their music but haven't had a chance to really land a strong spot in the industry. We're going to take our wisdom, right, the things that we know in our network, and help these young artists to grow and do something positive for their lives. And then the other thing is real estate. You know, real estate is, in my downtime when I'm not doing any other projects or doing the Divine Poetry, I'm doing real estate. And that's just to help people have a quality life. I think people should be able to live somewhere decent. So my job is to make sure that people have an equal chance to live somewhere decent. But through all that, those are things that I do with my heart, but the joy of being part of the Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out is awesome. It just gives me opportunity to be free, to mingle with the people, feel off their vibe, and then hopefully put some positive energy back in there. And I say, James, I often tell James that he doesn't even know the magnitude of what this is. And even this interview is the next step of where we're going with it. So I just see positive things coming forth.
I just want to use this line. This line was used in the last Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out. It shook up the whole, everybody who watched the DVD. They're like, man, that was a great line. It came out of nowhere. You ain't gotta be long, but you gotta be strong if you're doing your poetry. That Sister Diane, that was a nice, beautiful poem, but he really shook it up with that line. After you finished, it was hot.
That was one of them. You know, she caught me off guard. I brought her on, and I went to go in my spot to get out the way. By the time I got to my spot, she was done. So I had to come back with it and bring the crowd back forth. And I was like, you know, nobody said you had to be long, but you gotta be strong. Straight shot to the vein. Straight shot to the vein. So
that shit crowd up.
That's how poetry is. It comes in so many different forms. You know, so many different levels of it, that it can be a quick, fast, and hit you hard. It can be a long one, slow one, fast one. And that's the type of energy that we bring. It's what we're doing is bigger than what our vision of it. When the world gets a part of this, they're gonna run with it, because what it does for any community that takes hold of it is magnificent.
Brother, it's always a pleasure.
Yes,
Brother
sir.
Marquise Humphrey, Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out, host with the most.
I just want to say this. Anytime you see James Graham, be careful, because he will work you to death. That's all. God bless you.
Prejudice and social insanity. Knowing truth is nothingness. Being truth is nothing. Let no one tell you it's something, because that is evil communication, corrupting our good manners. Always remember, evildoers do bad things, but they're good planners. For an
How y'all doing
agenda
today? James Graham again. I have another member of the Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out team, Brother Tyrone Gaskins, the hostess with the mostest. Yeah, I'm going to let him introduce himself and see how he feels about being on the Trenton Divine Poetry team, and you know, talk about a couple other projects that he's doing in the area. Brother Tyrone Gaskins, how you feel, big brother?
Brother James Graham, I am doing well.
Awesome.
And you know I'm not the hostess with the mostest. That's Marquise Humphrey, who you guys will get an opportunity to meet with, and who we are just absolutely proud of the work that he does. Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out is a vision that Brother James Graham brought to the fore after we had the opportunity to do some work with the Rhema Ministry at Shiloh Baptist Church. I had to think about that for a second. The name of the ministry was the Rhema Ministry, and that's where I met James. As a matter of fact, I met him before we started the Rhema Ministry Poetry on the street. He stopped his car, he saw me, he screamed out my name. I'm like, who is this screaming at me? And he said, I got your name from somebody at Shiloh in regard to doing some poetry, that you and your wife are conducting the ministry, and I would really like to be a part of that. And it it's been a wonderful ride since then. Now, we did some work there, and James had this vision for Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out. At that point in my sojourn, I was just finishing up a campaign and really moving through a lot of life challenges and under a lot of pressure. And I was like, James, I don't have time for this, bro. You know, I canceled once or twice on different events that he wanted me to perform. And then I got engaged. And I was utterly blown away by James's development as a poet, his stick-to-itiveness in terms of being a businessman, and a very crystallized vision in regard to what the Divine Poetry Night Out potential was. And let me just talk to you a little bit about that, okay? We have brought together a group of brothers whose relationships mine awareness, whose relationships mine consciousness, whose relationships are about being in an integral place and being aware of ourselves in such a way that we are honing the energy that God gives us. And I have to say that far more than the poetry has been just a powerful, powerful experience for me, for Skip, for Buzz, for Malik, for Marquise. And I'm just very, very proud of James's intention and his ability to wrap this network and this support system around us. So that's what Trenton Divine Poetry really means for me. And the poetry is a plus. You know, I get to stand up, and the poet always has license to say what he wants. And that's a wonderful, powerful place to be. And I'm just very, very proud, James, to be a part of what you put together here, man. Much, much respect, bro.
You got it, bro. Speak to some of the projects that you got going on, some of the things that you're doing with your poetry ministry, and some of the professional projects that you got going on, and let us see.
As a poet, there's I don't do as much writing as I would like to do. Actually, the poetry became a public thing as I tried to hone my gifts at the piano, and I have terrible stage fright when I'm playing the piano, but I have no stage fright when I'm talking to the public. So I thought that the more that I could do that, the more that I could get out there and desensitize myself to being in front of people performing, that it would transcend itself into my artistry at the keyboard. So that's one of the purposes as an artist that poetry serves for me. I do have a date coming up. Well, we have the Trenton Divine Poetry Night coming up very shortly in October. $500 on the table, y'all. Somebody come get that money. And we're looking forward to that. Many of us will be performing that night. Then I have the opportunity to do some poetry at an awards gala that is being promoted by Mr. Skip Bailey. That will be on September 22nd, I believe is the date. I'm going to do Light. That's a signature piece for me. And it's going to be a lot of fun out at the Cedar Gardens, I think it is. So this Sunday I'm playing a baby shower as a pianist in Hopewell Township, and that ought to be a lot of fun at the Hotel du Village. I only know how to pronounce it the right way because that's the way the woman pronounced it when I called the hotel. So I was like, oh, that's how you say it, right? And then, so that's the creative art side, James, right? That's the creative art side. I've been very involved in the politics of the city over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, and will continue to be involved with that particular aspect. That's a real driver in my life. I don't think that you can make change if you're not sitting at the table and prepared to advocate for those agendas and priorities that you believe are important. And I believe that a quality of life for some of the poorest people here in the city of Trenton is a very important thing. So that drives my commitment to change here. And interestingly, I spent last week as aide to the West Ward councilwoman, and that kind of went south, and I ended up moving into aide as an aide to the at-large councilmen. Now, sometimes God has greater things for you to do, and the expansion of that jurisdiction in terms of my role when I had been told I would not be able to serve is a powerful indicator that I'm sitting where I'm supposed to be. So we are very, very thankful for that. And Professionally, I'm a consultant, business management, nonprofit development. Consultant management is the technical term that we use in that regard. And I provide nonprofit development, business services, and all types of qualitative research and different white papers and documents for individuals, for businesses, for corporations. I've had the opportunity to work with a number of the large nonprofits here across the city, and I'm in the process of rebranding the firm simply because I'm involved in politics. So every time you're involved in politics, particularly if you lose an election in a very politically sensitive and indoctrinated city like Trenton, you have to rebrand, you have to rebuild, you have to again establish your credibility. So that's the process that I'm moving through right now, and hope that I'll continue to be able to serve pretty effectively here as a community activist, and at the same time be able to take TAG resources into nonprofit development to another level.
Thank you for coming out, brother. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, James.
Oh, man.
Just proud to be under your leadership.
And we're going to keep on doing it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Good manners. Always remember, evildoers do bad things, but they're good planners for an agenda that will serve corruption. So there can be no interruption from our faith. For the race is not given to the swift or the strong, but to those who endure to the end.
Hi, I'm James Graham. I'm here with another Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out teammate, Mr. Malik Aknetter.
Yeah.
Spoken word artist extraordinaire. One of the best in the state, I've heard. So I want to introduce y'all to him and let him introduce himself and speak upon a couple of things that he's got going on and how he feels about being on the Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out team. All right, brother Malik, good to see you, brother.
What's up, James? What's going on,
All
man?
right, how you feel about being on the team, Trenton Divine Poetry team? You're a great member.
Exciting. Thanks for the compliment. I wouldn't say I'm the best in the state or any of that, but I do my thing.
One of the best, I say. You know, you got to give it up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do. Excited though. Excited about being on the Trenton Divine Poetry team. I think the way it came together and how we've been working these last shows has been good. It's been real good. Exciting about moving the city, you know, being an inspiration, being an outlet for people that like the spoken word, open mic, creative type of vibration, you know. We have some real nice events. Very excited about being a part of it. Definitely.
Explain to the people what projects that you got coming up and some of the things you're doing in the city, some of the positive things you got going on. And I know you do because a lot of people are telling me how much they're impressed with the work you're doing.
Okay. All right. So, have gotten involved with the feed, the OFMJ. It's a feed. It's by a brother named Giovanni Williams, young brother, who is trying to move and shake in his generation to help stop mass incarceration and bring forth issues dealing with social justice. So I connected with him, did an interview, hoping to do more interviews about my personal experiences with the system. So that's a great project to be on and work with and have an outlet for. You already know about the Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out project, which is always a project for me because I have to be prepared for shows, you know? So yeah, that's a project, October 13th, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so that's a project going on right now. What else? I am currently working to get my 122 Blues anti-prison campaign project to go further and be out there, you know, possibly looking at a tour to go around and to perform that as a creative workshop and Q&A type situation concerning my experiences with incarceration and what I learned and those things of that nature. And those about where I'm at right now, you know, along with writing, you know, when you're a poet, lyricist, you know, you have to keep a notebook because you could be on the job working and all of a sudden something comes around, you got to write it. So it's a constant project. Yeah, it's a constant project, really. So, but those are the main ones that we know we're excited about and you know that are coming up.
Well, Brother Malik, it's a pleasure having you on the team.
No doubt,
And
man.
keep on going strong, bro.
Definitely, man.
All
Glad to
right.
be on the team.
Awesome.
Communication, corrupting our good manners. Always remember, evildoers do bad things, but they're good planners for an agenda that will serve corruption. So there can be no interruption from our faith. For the race is not given to the swift or the strong, but to
How y'all doing? My name is James Graham from the Trenton Divine Poetry. Tonight we have Rob Ruffus of the Trenton Divine Poetry music team. He's a feature for us most times when we go out and have our events. And we're gonna ask him to explain how he feels about being on the team, the Trenton Divine Poetry team. How you doing, brother?
Happy to be here. Thanks.
All right. How you feel about being on the team?
Well, I'm excited that I'm on the team because I guess I was original member because it was me and you starting off first. We went around and did some poetry things, but I was playing bass and you were doing your poems, and so I felt like this was going to be big. And then when you created the team and the idea and how it just exploded, and then I felt like I'm your brother, so I might as well be on the team and just make it do what it do. So it's been amazing. Like I'm excited for more stuff. I'm excited for how big it's gonna be, and I'm just happy to be.
Now explain some of the things that you're doing in the city. You've been playing bass for a long time. Just explain some of the projects that you got going on, and explain some of the up and coming musicians that you've been playing for.
I started playing bass when I was 10 years old, and started in church, and I been playing ever since. Been working with artists around the city since I was like 17, 18, and then we have been doing I've been doing not little shows, but a show here in Trenton called the Robert Ruff's Experience, and it's a music vibe, unscripted show where I can I have other artists come up or other musicians play with me, and we just have a good time. It's a good vibe. It's good singing, good music, good food. There's food there, so that's been a recent project. My other projects that I've been working on, I have worked with artists from the city, gospel artists, rap artists, R&B artists. So I've just been really expanding my music genres and everything. So it's been great.
Continued success, and keep playing the bass. Big Rob Ruffus from Trenton Divine Poetry Night Out.
That's Rob Ruffus, not Big.
sanity. Knowing truth is nothingness. Being truth is nothing. Let no one tell you it's something, because that is evil communication, corrupting our good manners. Always remember, evildoers do bad things, but they're good planners for an agenda that will serve corruption. So there can be no interruption from our faith. For the race is not given to the swift or the strong, but to those